The contentious Fair Pay Agreements Bill is due back in Parliament today for its second reading. The National Party opposes the bill, and I'm joined by its workplace relations spokesperson, Paul Goldsmith. When it comes to the committee stages of the bill, what are the key changes that you're going to try and make through that process?
Well, the first one I'd make, Brent, is that we oppose the bill holus bolus, and we've committed to repeal it if we get a chance to form a government this time next year, hopefully before the agreements are actually finalised. So we're opposing the bill. We're fighting. We don't think it actually will yield better results in New Zealand workforces. In fact, we think it will bring a rigidity and inflexibility at a time when we need both those things more than ever. It'll add costs, it'll add friction, and is not going to help workplaces at all. But when it goes through the committee stages, we will make some suggestions. I'm not going to tell you all of them yet, going to keep the government on their toes, but they're only things that would make a bad bill slightly less bad, and would never be able to redeem the overall legislation.
Well, let's go. I've talked to the CTO. It says that their unions are already gathering signatures and in anticipation of the bill becoming law. It's hoping that there will be at least 2 or 3 fair pay agreements in place, negotiated, by the time of the next election. What will that mean if you repeal legislation? Would you be unwinding those agreements? What would it mean?
Well, we'll have to wait and see what emerges. From my reading of the bill and the process, I'd be very surprised if they managed to get anything through, simply because of the fact you need 3 months to get the employer side sorted out. There's all manner of things that could go wrong there, and then if there's any disputes, there's an extra few months there, and then if it goes to some kind of judicial review as the first one, it could take even longer. So we'll wait and see. But the fact that they're going around gathering signatures at the moment goes to show the ridiculousness of the initiation process. So, I mean, if you took, for example, cleaners or retail workers, where there might be more than 100,000 across the country, all you need is 1,000 signatures. Less than 1% of the total workforce that's being covered is all it takes to start the process, and there is no way of stopping it. Once the process starts, you end up with a fair pay agreement at the end, after the sausage making manufacturing has gone on. And so it's a very undemocratic sort of process that's been established.
Do you accept, I mean, the CTU, the government argues that a number of the groups of workers they're looking at, you've mentioned cleaners, supermarket checkout operators, security guards, they basically all worked through the COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdowns, etc., were seen as critical workers, and that they're underpaid. Do you accept that they are underpaid?
No, I accept that the best way to improve worker income is to ultimately improve productivity, and so that is the only way to have sustainable increases in wages. The government seems to believe that the way you increase wages for lower income earners is to legislate for it, either through higher minimum wages or through these workplace agreements, or secondly, to starve off immigration and to try and force up wages that way. Both of those ways are only ever short-term situations. They're not a long-term sustainable way to increase wages. The only way to do that is to have more productive workplaces that are internationally competitive. And instead, what we're seeing is a government just piling on more costs into New Zealand businesses. And the 2 areas that are particularly a threat by this are those working in discretionary activities, such as in the hospitality area, whereas ultimately, if it's too expensive to have a cafe open on the weekend because you've now got penal rates and a whole lot of extra additional costs, people aren't prepared to pay $8 for a coffee, therefore they don't go, therefore the business doesn't operate. or those businesses that are trying to compete internationally and our cost structure is out of whack. So we don't think it's going to help very much at all.
Aside from repealing this legislation, are there other significant changes you'd make to employment law?
Well, look, the first cab off the rank would be dealing with this legislation. There's no question about that. But overall, the thing we need to do across the workplace is to ensure that we actually have workers. I mean, the big issue that most New Zealand workplaces are facing at the moment is they can't find people to come and operate the till and man the shop or work in the factories. And that's because the government has starved off in immigration, and of course, its welfare policies are not helping. We've got more people on the job seeker benefit than in the past, 50,000 more at a time when there's no shortage of workers. And then thirdly, the government is out there on these lunatic make work schemes, such as Jobs for Nature and things like that, where they're actually spending hundreds of millions of dollars to sort of create depression-era job creation schemes at a time when businesses can't find workers. So all in all, the best thing you can do is to free up the supply of workers so that businesses can get the workers that they need.
Paul Goldsmith, thank you for your time.